This is a case study in the tale of two presidents. I'm going to hypothesize what Obama would have done in this situation. Obama would have said, yep, I'm going to sign on to this non-binding agreement against online extremism. First Amendment be damned. This president, however, President Trump, wouldn't sign on to it because of free speech concerns, which is the correct way to go about this. Now, if you look in this picture here, I don't know who this guy is. Oh, I think that's Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Macron. And this is Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand. And Cuckboy over here, Mr. Soyboy himself, Soyboy extraordinaire, mild from Montreal, Justin Trudeau. And then I don't know who these guys are. I think that's the guy from the Philippines. I'm not sure. But anyways, I'm gonna go over the story real quick. I'm not gonna read all of it. I'm just gonna highlight some of the things, and see how Vox, which I'm gonna get to, and I think Tim Pool sort of alluded to this today on one of his videos, but I kind of want to get into it because it's pretty interesting how one news site will sort of give you the basic information, and then Vox and that same guys will give you just snarky commentary, and it's, you know, in the thinly veiled behind journalism. So let's go. So the United States broke with 18 governments and 5 top American tech firms Wednesday by declining to endorse a New Zealand-led effort to curb extremism online, a response to the live stream shootings at the Christchurch mosque that killed 51. White House officials said free speech concerns prevented them from formally signing onto the largest campaign to date targeting extremism online. But as another example of the United States standing at odds to some of its closest allies. Well, I could say, like I've heard this from your parents, you know, and my parents, if everyone jumps off a bridge, do you jump off the bridge? No. So it says leaders from the globe, including British Prime Minister Theresa May, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Jordan's King. Oh, I think that's Jordan's King Abdullah. No, it's not. Jordan's King Abdullah's numero dos signed the Christchurch Call. And this is the website for it. I'm not going to read it. Which was unveiled at the gathering in Paris that has been organized by French President Emmanuel Macron and crikey, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who, by the way, wore that hijab in support. But when all those Christians were killed in Sri Lanka, didn't hear a freaking word out of her. Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and Twitter. The five-headed Hydra also signed on the document pledging to work more closely with one another and governments. Oh, that's never a good idea. To make certain their sites do not become conduits for terrorism. You let leftist progressives on there, so yeah, you are a conduit for terrorism, technically. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey was among the attendees at the conference. I'm pretty sure old Dorsey was there showing his collection of nose rings, that frickin' douche canoe. Anyways, the document was non-binding. And that's the point I want to make right here. I think it was non-binding. Meaning, well, what does that mean? It means it was non-binding. Means, yeah, they can sign on to it, but it doesn't mean they don't have to put onto it. So it's just a, window dressing. But reflected the heightened global frustration with the inability of Facebook, Google, and Twitter to restrain hateful posts, photos, and videos that have spawned real-world violence. Hateful? Define hateful. I'm sure you would have your definitions, of course, depending on your political leanings, of what hateful and what isn't hateful. The government pledged to counter online extremism. The government's pledging, including through new regulation. Oh, great. Regulation. Yeah. Encourage media outlets to apply ethical standards when depicting terrorist events online. Oh, great. That's all we need. So the governments can say, hey, if you're a quote unquote legitimate news source, you can post whatever happened, terrorist events online. But if you're a independent newsmaker or independent commentator, you can't because you're not quote unquote part of the club. That's all we need. Oh yeah, and they put the parentheses. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Yeah, that's the problem there too. But the White House opted against endorsing the effort, and President Trump did not join the other leaders in Paris. The White House felt the document could present constitutional concerns, which it could, officials there said, potentially conflicting with the First Amendment, which it would, even though Trump previously has threatened to regulate social media out of concern that it's biased against conservatives. Because it is. And biased against some liberals and progressives out there with wrongthink who dare question the current narrative of their certain political party. Hours after declining to sign the document, the White House escalated its war against social media by announcing an unprecedented campaign asking internet users to share stories of when they thought they were censored by Facebook, Google's YouTube, and Twitter companies. The president frequently takes aim at them for alleged political censorship. Alleged? Look, in Joe Rogan's podcast with Tim Pool, Jack Dorsey, and that freaking amoeba, what's her face? Basically, Jack Dorsey almost admitted that they do have a bias, and they're trying to work on it. Yeah, right. So, still in the statement, the Christchurch call, the White House said it stands with the international community condemning terrorist and violent extremists on content online and supports the call's goals. But the United States is currently in a position to not join the endorsement. The White House decision against supporting the Christchurch call drew criticism from experts who called for stronger regulation across the web. Alistair Knott, a computer science professor at the University of Otago in New Zealand, said the absence of the U.S. endorsement potentially would undercut the global argument for controlling how hate and violence spread online. No, you guys can control all the stuff you want, but we don't, or I feel that it shouldn't be, and the government, and hopefully President Trump continues with this. You can self-censor this. You don't need the government coming in there, because having the government provide regulation and you let them enter your life is like inviting a vampire in your house. Once they're there, it ain't going to leave. And it's going to suck the blood out of you and make you a thrall to them or something, which you don't want. But others worry the Christchurch document could potentially blur the lines between government power and free expression. Ding! This is where I would put a ding sound, but I don't know if I'm going to edit this video. I think I'm just going to push this out. But anyways, quote, it's hard to take seriously this administration's criticism of extremist content, but it's probably for the best that the United States didn't sign, said James Grimmelman, a Cornell Tech law professor. Can't imagine his political leanings. The government, quote, should not be in the business of encouraging platforms to do more than they legally are required to, or than they could be required to under the First Amendment. This guy doesn't sound left. He probably is, but quote, the government ought to do is encouraging through laws that give platforms and users clear notice of what they're allowed to do, not through vague exhortations that can easily turn into veiled threats. Says first part, White House stressed it would continue to be proactive. Okay, blah blah blah. So New Zealand Arden's quote says, we've taken practical steps to try to stop what experienced in Christchurch from happening again. Oh, by the way, New Zealand's becoming a crypto-fascist state, essentially. There was a YouTube video of some New Zealand cops showing up at this guy's house, and they wanted to talk to him, and he was video recording, of course. They wanted to talk to him about some Facebook post or something like that, and he kept saying, what is it? He goes, well, we can't tell you. I'm not going to tell you. You're recording me, so I'm not going to tell you. And he goes, so what are you going to do? Well, I don't know. Something may be done. He goes, well, you guys can leave because I'm not going to. Because I'm going to talk to you. If I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to do it while being video recording you. And the cops are just, well, we don't want you to video record us. And how dare you, ask that? And so, again, I would have said I would have talked to him. Said I turned it off, but didn't. Still recorded him. But that's just me. Let's see. This talks about the 9-point plan, remedies designed to combat objectionable content, blah, 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 blah. Okay. That's one take. That's the Washington Post. Okay. Let's go to Gizmodo. And of course, how these news journalists and these editorial boards, what they do is they get the worst picture of somebody. I mean, it looks like he's like, I don't know, about to gnaw on some corn. He's like, they never get a good picture of someone who they don't like. And I'm pretty sure the right media as well during the Obama administration found the worst picture they could. And I could blame them. So the White House refuses to support Christchurch call that condemns extremism online. Releases absolutely bonkers statement. Now, obviously, this is filed under politics, and you can tell this is actually biased right off the bat. Matt Novak, who wrote this, is probably a regressive leftist. Yeah, this is from 7 days ago. This isn't even this picture here. So yeah, the White House declined to endorse a non-binding agreement. All right. Christchurch was spearheaded by Prime Minister Jacinda to eliminate terrorist violent threats online. Okay, let's get where the says we continue. This is what I read earlier in the last one. But then here's where the biased commentary comes in. But the official White House statement gets weirder. Further, we maintain the best tool to defeat terrorist speech is the productive speech, the White House said. Feel free to go back and read that again multiple times as necessary. This is where those stupid liberals will go full stop, and they do those clapping emojis after every word. That's freaking just cringy as hell. But so there's an old saying that the best way to fight bad speech is with more speech. Exactly. And whether you agree with the principle or not, when it comes to terrorism, the idea has been at odds with the U.S. government since 1776. So yeah, so they're trying to equate speech with bombs. I mean, this guy's a freaking moron. U.S. fights bad terrorist speech with bombs. Literally, bombs we drop explosive and knives in the sky. What a swarmy, whiny little douche canoe. Oddly enough, the president and the Republican Party are more broadly have accused big tech companies of bias against conservatives. Yeah. Even David Nunes filed a lawsuit against Twitter. So it's absurd to claim that you should fight bad speech with more speech in the environment of GOP martyrdom that has been invented by Trump and his allies. It hasn't been invented, you goddamn moron! Jesus Christ! So yeah, so you could see where this so now so this is from Gizmodo, of course. Now he's got to be real edgy by saying if you feel like you're losing your fucking mind while reading statements from the White House these days, you're not alone. Fuck you. Next. Here's from Vox. Okay, this gets even better. Of course, they got to show his gut because, you know, that's how you know, leftists don't like to say you shouldn't fat shame, but they fat shame people. So, you know, two wrongs don't make a right. And multiplying two negatives become a positive, I guess, in their eyes. But so it goes over the thing. Let's get to the their smarmy commentary. For government to call the internet companies. Okay, White House spokesman not return Recode's request for comment on what specifically in the call the administration objects to along the First Amendment lines. Hey, Recode, have you tried, I don't know, reading the fucking First Amendment? My bad. Anywho, talked about the shooter. You insist on being an outlier on guns. What? Okay, what? Where and why are guns being brought up in this commentary? It makes no sense. They're talking about the non-binding agreement the United States didn't sign because of free speech concerns. So why are you bringing the Second Amendment in? Facebook's first strike announcement is well-timed and likely, at least in part, an effort to earn some brownie points with the public, but it's still a positive step, and one U.S. government refuses to take. This is all these governments and the five-headed Hydra on YouTube, and yet the White House says no. That's like, so everyone should jump off a bridge, but I'm not going to, and that you're bad because you're not jumping off a bridge. What? Okay. Prime Minister Ronald organized a call related to someone extremism. Trump administration abstinence to not directly related to doing would rather response to gun violence overall. Okay, that has nothing. Fucking Vox, man. Anyways, Australia experienced. Okay, I read that. And New Zealand lawmakers voted to ban most semi-automatic weapons and assault rifles. Well, they already. God dang, why do they? Call it a modern sporting rifle, but you're a douche canoe. Whoever wrote this, less than a month after Christchurch shooting. Yeah, because we got to do something now. What about the children? And you got to start pumping out laws because something bad happened. Yeah, because that always fixes the problem, which it doesn't. So yeah, they're basically saying you will turn in New Zealand. It says you will turn your weapons or else they're gonna swat the shit out of you probably. All right, the United States, however, seems to be stuck in an unending loop. A mass shooting happens. There are calls to change gun laws, but the new cycle eventually moves on and it repeats again. What part of shall not be infringed do you not goddamn understand? But hey, what do I know, right? I'm just some dude behind a microphone here, not showing my face. The sick from that guinea pig in the right-hand corner. The rise of online extremism and violence is a major issue all over the globe. By the way, those adults, if you will, and one kid who shot up a school and killed someone in Colorado recently. Do you remember why they haven't reported on it anymore? Oh yeah, because one of the kids was a transgendered, anti-Christian, leftist progressive, and so was the other person. The other person wasn't transgendered, but the guy was transitioning, I guess, or I don't know, from female to male. So at first, no, from male to female, I think. I don't know. It gets into the weeds, but he was so the police thought he was a male, but no, he was female. Biologically, he was male, but wrong thinking all. So, yeah. Amanda Sakomik recently explained for Vox the Christchurch shooter exploited the internet to get his message out and laid bare the shortcomings of our abilities to police such awful conduct. This guy was a leftist. He didn't... You know what? I don't need to rehash what happened, but this guy was not... He was... So, I like how... Free speech is an important tenet of American society, and the First Amendment strictly prohibits the government from infringing on speech, no matter how hateful it can be. Yeah. And? But it doesn't prevent lawmakers and regulators from talking about hateful and dangerous content online and trying to figure out what to do about it. Okay. Moreover, private companies can legally restrict what speech they do and don't allow on the platforms, but they shouldn't. That's the key word there. The U.S. has long been an international outlier on guns, and under Trump, has become so in other areas such as climate change. Now the White House appears determined to stay out of yet another conversation, also with dire consequences. What? See, here's what happens, okay? You get all these countries, and they say, well, we don't like this speech because it offends us. That's the type of speech you have to protect. You have to protect speech that offends other people. I'm sorry. I'm getting to the point where I'm a free speech absolutist. I think, honestly, right now, that you should be allowed to yell fire in a crowded theater. Why? Free speech. Because it's dependent on the person to go, is there a fire really? And go, and look around and go, are you missing me? And kind of investigate it. Just don't automatically, oh my God, fire! Run out of the exits and into the streets, just running and screaming and trampling over people. It's also incumbent on the person who hears speech to go, should I overreact to this? Should I investigate it? So I'm almost to the point right now where free speech is an absolute. And if you don't like it, tough shit. That's the problem that we're facing here. Is that we got people that say, this makes me feel sad, therefore it's hateful. Just because it's hateful for someone doesn't mean it's hateful for another person. Okay, that's Vox. So we're going to go to the Sydney Morning Herald. I think I read through this earlier, and it was pretty non-biased. They're just talking about the events. The leaders of companies all said they work more closely. But the White House opted against endorsing the pledge, and the President Donald Trump did not join world leaders, including Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and tech executives such as Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey in Paris. The statement, they said this, we read that before. The White House did launch that website. Trump administration is fighting for free speech online. No matter your views, if you suspect political bias has caused, that's what the website was saying. Made global scrutiny. Facebook, Google, Twitter over the years have hired more reviewers and created. That's the problem. You hired reviewers and you have a biased algorithm and biased reviewers. So if you're a lefty progressive douche canoe, you're gonna automatically sour to speech you don't like. That's just the way it is. Yeah. So out of all the four news articles I just brought up here about the same subject, this one from the Sydney Morning Herald, it seems to be less biased than the rest of them. Of course, Vox and Gizmodo, they're just fucking trash. So I guess in closing here, free speech is an absolute, and if I'm glad Trump didn't sign on to this non-binding agreement. By the way, and by the way, a little off the subject here, that climate change, the Paris Accord or whatever, for climate change, that was a non-binding agreement too. Of course, China's going to sign on to it and not do anything, and that's the problem with non-binding agreements. Because if it was a binding agreement, no country would sign on to it. It's a non-binding agreement. Of course they're going to sign into it. It's window dressing. Who gives a shit? I'll sign on to it or whatever. But they don't really do anything. This is the problem. When you have governments sign on to these things, then they can say, well, during election times, you're like, well, this guy is an extremist, therefore we're going to shut down his campaign. And we already seen Twitter do that to Sargon of Akkad and Count Dankula, who are running for like the member of European Parliament. They weren't even running their Twitter sites, and Twitter got rid of them. And I think Facebook did the same. And Facebook called Paul Joseph Watson a dangerous extremist. No, I don't think so. So it's good that the United States didn't sign on to this quote unquote non-binding agreement over free speech concerns. Because all you have to do is if you sign on to it, then the world can go, hey, why you allow this person X on YouTube and or Twitter, Facebook, whatever, to say hateful things about our country, and then the government can step in and go, you know what, you're right. We signed on to this non-binding agreement, and they can get rid of them, or deplatform them, or deperson them, or get rid of them and send them to the dark edges of the internet. The thing is with hateful speech and racist speech, misogynist speech, or whatever, you want it out in the open. You don't want it in the dark recesses. You want it. I want to know. If my neighbor's racist, I want to know so I can avoid him. Don't silence those people. I want to know who they are so I can either criticize them and or ignore them. But when you silence them and you get rid of them, you don't know what they're up to. They're kind of like in the dark shadows, scheming or something, or whatever they're doing. So this is the problem that these governments aren't tackling. They're quickly doing this for window dressing and basically catering to their base, their people, and can see we're doing something about it, and they're not really doing anything unless it's a binding agreement, which it's not. Oh yeah, I like how earlier this month Trump sent a series of tweets, most of them prominent far-right personalities such as conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. Come on, really? It's ridiculous. But anyways, other than that, like I said, I am a free speech absolutist almost. If that makes any sense. So, I guess that's about it. Here we are, 24 minutes, and I doubt most of you are going to sit through this crap. But like I said, hopefully you can form your own opinion here, and hope that President Trump and or government doesn't sign on to these stupid non-binding agreements, regardless if it's good intentions or not.